Thank you. Mic 23.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Chiefs, observers, executive staff. The 2017-2018 audit is going to be presented by Gord Harrington and Curtis Wilkinson from the Toom Harrington auditing firm. We've had a big increase in our funding this year, and if you can look at the comparisons from last year, you can see the big increases and the very good balance sheet that we're going to be projecting. Okay, with that, I'd like to just introduce Gord Harrington.
Thank you, Arnold. And thank you for your invitation to present our independent auditor's report and analysis regarding the financial statements of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs for the year ended March 31st, 2018. It's found in tab 10, I believe, of your package. We wish to acknowledge and appreciate the Tecumloops Shwepam leadership for hosting this 50th AGA of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. For your information, Toom Harrington Chartered Professional Accountants, LLP, is a locally owned and operated firm of chartered professional accountants. We've been providing and continue to provide audit and assurance services to the First Nation communities within the interior of British Columbia since 1992. We also provide tax, advisory, and valuation services to First Nation entities that are working on economic development and initiatives. When called upon, we can also provide financial forensic investigative work. Now to our independent auditor's report. To the members of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs, we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs, which comprises the statements of financial position as at March 31st, 2018, and the statements of operations, changes in net assets, and cash flows for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. We note that management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Our responsibility as auditors is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit. We conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. Those standards require that we comply with ethical requirements and plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. An audit involves performing procedures to obtain audit evidence about the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements, and an audit also includes evaluating the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates made by management, as well as evaluating the overall presentation of the financial statements. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinion, which is that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs as at March 31st, 2018, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. In other words, we have provided an unqualified or clean opinion. As required by the Society Act of British Columbia, we report that in our opinion, these standards have been applied on a basis consistent with that of the preceding year. Toom Harrington, Chartered Professional Accountants, LLP, Kamloops, British Columbia, July 26, 2018. My colleague and partner, Curtis Wilkinson, will now present the operational highlights.
So if everybody's looking at their financial statements, I'm not going to go obviously over every single number. I'm going to look at it more on a high level. So basically what I like to do is I like to compare the current year to the prior year and highlight any major differences and the reasons why there was those differences. So the first item on the statement of financial position, which is on page 5 of the financial statements, Cash, current year balance is $718,000. We saw an increase of $656,000 over the prior year. As we go through this, it'll become a little more obvious why we have that big increase in cash. So the next item is accounts receivable of just over $490,000. It's increased over $181,000. The main reason for that large increase during the year is because at the end of March, we had the province of BC owed us $350,000, which was collected after the year end. Prepaid expenses of just over $50,000 went up over the prior year, and that's mainly due to there was some security deposits that had to be paid for the new Vancouver office. Tangible capital assets, which represent equipment owned by the union, has increased by about $33,000, and that's just as a result of money spent on leasehold improvements and a telephone system in Vancouver. Accounts payable, $661,000 this year, and it showed a large increase of about $513,000. The main reason for that is there was $200,000 payables at the end of the year, and as well there was some payables for work that was being completed on the new Vancouver office. Deferred revenue of about $188,000 increased by just over decreased by about $58,000. And that's mainly due to, in the prior year, we had received money from INAC prior to March of 2017 that related to the 2018 fiscal year. So that was deferred revenue last year that is in revenue in the current year. The net assets of the union, which in essence is the equity, has increased by about $454,000, and that is simply a reflection of the surplus for the year. Working capital, which is defined as current assets less current liabilities, is showing a surplus of about $410,000 in the current year. In the prior year, that showed a deficit of just over $10,000. So that is a very positive improvement year over year. This slide is more just for information purposes. This shows a 5-year analysis on the statement of financial position or the balance sheet. So you can see there's some large spikes in the current year that all relates to the increase in the cash balance, the increase in the receivables. So the current assets and total assets are up a lot in the current year, as are the current liabilities due to the increase in the accounts payable as we discussed. Again, this is more just for information purposes. If we look at the statement of operations, which is on page 6 of the financial statements, we can see INAC revenue of just over $2.3 million has increased by $825,000 over the prior year. There's a few items that we received additional funding for. We received extra funding for research. There was extra funding received just part of core funding, and extra funding for consultations and policy development. I have a note in there, just only core funding is subject to mandatory annual repayments for surpluses. As you're all aware, there's different types of INAC funding. The only one that they can claw back, for lack of a better term, that they can recover on an annual basis is core funding, which was fully expended in the current year. Other revenue of $332,000 has increased by about $142,000. That is mainly due to additional monies received from a new relationship trust, as well as there was more donations that was received during the year. The province of BC revenue, $542,000, increased by $233,000, and that's due to new initiatives during the year. So you can see the total revenue, $3.26 million, has increased by over $1 million, which is mainly due to these three items. If we look at the expense side, so general administrative, $315,000, shown a big increase. Again, if we go back to, there was two payables at the end of the year of $100,000 each. That's the reason for the general administrative increase as well. Office expenses has gone up by about $64,000, just mainly due to multiple new programs in the year. Same thing with professional fees has shown an increase. A lot of those, the increase in professional fees related to the new programs, as well as salaries and benefits went up by over $200,000. Again, we're seeing more programs during the year, which is increasing the revenue and the related expenses. Again, this slide is just for information. You can see there's some spikes in the current year, as we talked about, just with regards to INAC revenue, total revenue, and total expenses. The next one I want to just spend a little bit of time on and just explain this one. So what we usually see is INAC revenue and Province of BC revenue will match the related expenditures to a large extent. And it goes back to what I said about core funding as an example. Core funding, if you don't spend it, you have to pay it back. So we want to make sure that we're spending it, right? In the current year, you can see our INAC revenue is substantially higher than our INAC expenditures. The reason for that is in the current year, we had more multi-year projects. So we received the funding in 2018, but the projects weren't completed at the end of 2018. But because they're not subject to annual repayment, we show the revenue. We're showing a surplus this year, and some of the expenditures are going to be in the 2019 fiscal year. So that's the reason why those don't match as closely this year. Again, I wanted to do it more high level. I'm not sure if we have time for questions or.
We do. Any questions or comments? Are we ready to go to the resolution? See some nodding. I'll draw to your attention to Resolution 2018-44 regarding adoption of the 2017-18 audited financial statements. Therefore, be resolved, UBCIC Chiefs and Assembly hereby adopt the 2017-2018 audited financial statements as presented at the UBCIC 50th Annual General Assembly meeting October 2nd to 4th, 2018. Mover? 19.
Thank you, Chief Chadenius Penticton.
Lim Chief, seconder. Mike 18.
Councillor Tom Koenig, proxy for West Bank First Nation.
Lim, Councillor. Any discussion? Question's been called. Any opposition to the resolution? Any abstentions to the resolution? Seeing neither, it is carried. Thank you. Any concluding remarks from our auditing team? Mike 22.
I just want to say thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present.
Mike 23.
Comment is that the INAC has already reviewed the audit and has accepted it, except for one minor item, which was a project we had in 2017, and I think we've taken care of that. So it has been gone over by INAC already, so they're just waiting for the Chief's approval.
Thank you. And we typically invite our auditors to leave while we go to the next appointment of the auditor resolution. So I'll do that now. And thanking you once again for your patience and hanging in there with us. And as they're exiting, we're going to turn to Chief Rhoda at Mike's or up here for a quick presentation. Mm-hmm. Mike 3.
Israel, Chief Rhoda Peters from Chawatha. And on behalf of the Stalo Tribal Council, we would like to present the Union of BC Indian Chiefs a print from Stalo artist Stan Green on behalf of all the work that you've been doing for the last years as workers of the people. And happy 50th. So from the chiefs and the communities from the Stalo Tribal Council, we say congratulations and thank you.
Smiles are fading, Galt. Okay, come on. Teeth are dry. There. Turn that way, would it? Thank you for that. And we thought the print of the war canoes was appropriate for this organization, being the proactive heavyweight that you are. So final resolution of the day is 2018-45 regarding auditor appointment. Therefore, be resolved the UBCIC Chiefs Assembly reappoint Tom Harrington, Chartered Professional Accountants, LLP, as auditors of the UBCIC to complete the 2018-19 annual audit for the organization, and therefore it finally resolved UBCIC Chiefs Assembly direct Tom Harrington, Chartered Professional Accountants, LLP, to provide a 2018-19 draft audit for the review by the UBCIC Executive by July 15, 2019, to be finalized by July 31st, 2019. Looking for a mover? Mike 14.
Chief Lee Spahan, co-order band.
Cooks Jem Cookby, seconder. Mike 4.
Chief Dalton Silver, Sumas, I'll second.
HCACM, any discussion? Questions are called. Any opposition to the resolution? Any abstentions to the resolution? Seeing neither, thank you. So that concludes our agenda. Turn over to the Grand Chief for closing remarks.
First of all, I'd like everyone to join with me in expressing our appreciation and gratitude to Tyrone for such an excellent job of chairing the meeting for the last 3 days. And I would also like to as we always do, express our deep appreciation to our hardworking staff. They've spent many, many days getting ready and preparing the materials and so on and so forth. So we always appreciate their hard work. I would like to, on behalf of the UBCIC, express our deep gratitude to the Kamloops community, to the leadership, to Chief Fred Seymour and members of his council, his elders, the elders of the Shuswap Nation Tribal Council. I want to offer a sincere shout out to all of the elders that attended our session here for the last 3 days and shared their wisdom and their knowledge with us, and that was absolutely fantastic. I think it really was the heart of our 3 days of celebration here, and I look forward to the future involvement and stronger voice of our elders. I think that was really clear throughout our 3 days. I want to offer a shout out to Elaine Alec. She looks pretty tired over there, but was amazing bit of work. And like her predecessor, Kula, who was our previous women's representative, she came to me and asked me, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, is there a job description? Are there terms of reference? And I said, you know, it will become what you make it. And I offered the same advice to Elaine, and now we're going to have a women's council. And that's going to be pretty incredible. I can see where this is going, and we'll probably wind up with an elders council as well as a youth council to guide and advise, you know, the organization. I want to thank all of the delegates and the chiefs in the room for hanging in and getting the work done with the resolutions. I want to acknowledge Judy's dad. You know, listening to him speak, Joe Manuel, Grand Chief Joe Manuel, it's so evident to see how this organization got started in 1969 in this room with the caliber of leadership we had back in the days. So we're very blessed that we had that coming together of those leaders, and we need to continue taking that direction. We heard a lot of good, powerful statements, and I agree with Chief Maureen Chapman that this was more of a celebration than a conventional annual General Assembly. And I'm so grateful for the heart, the soul, and the spirit of the UBCIC. It's so evident every time we gather like this, and that's the magic of this organization, and this is such a sacred place for us, this room that we're in right at the moment. So I have many, many memories to take home. I want to, as I did a few days ago, express my deep, undying love for the delegate over there that's been giving me the eye. All day she's been staring at me, and wish you a happy anniversary, Joan. And thank you for picking me. And with that, I wish everybody a safe journey home. Did I forget anything? It's too bad Bob didn't win the prize, but he was close. So again, thank you one and all for coming and sharing your time with all of us. We're so grateful for that. White Lim Lim.
Lim Lim Grand Chief, we'll turn to Cookby Christian, microphone 5, to close off the 50th Annual General Assembly of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. Cookby.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to call Chochin and say a prayer, and then we're going to sing you the farewell song. So any of the Soquapam people that are here, Cookbys, can come and join me, but I'll say the prayer first. Cookstako to Cookby, Cookstako to Misku, Yukuminto Hohai to Stemenelia to Mich, Yukuminto Rachkal Much, or Aspuya or Satko, or Chiklanku, Kunukunku, Yardku. I ask the Creator, Tal Cookby and Coolanchut, that you bless each and every person that are here and those that have been here for the past 3 days, all the way from my left, all the way to my right. I ask Tal Cookby that you open up that life path for each and every one of them, to the front, to the right, to the left, behind, above, and below. But most importantly, from within. that to remove any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual obstacles in the way of the people in a good way. I ask you to do that for these people at this time, Talcookbe. We give thanks to our Techkalmuch, our ancestors that we called in the very first day when we did the sacred Colton ceremony. We called in our ancestors. We release them now that we continue this and ask them to go back to their homes and go back and strengthen their families. Strengthen the little ones and strengthen the old ones at this time. We release our ancestors at this time from this ceremony, that they're with us and stood by us, especially those that were here originally from 1969 that have been watching over us and looking after us as they continue to do. Again, we give thanks of all those things that give us life, the Satqua, the water, the Timich, the land, the air, fire, all of those things that give us life and that have spirit. We give thanks for it this time to Alcookbe. We offer our prayers and blessings for our people that are sick and ill at this time to Alcookbe, from the very youngest to the very oldest, and all of our families. I ask you to look after them and send that white light of healing upon them at this time to Alcookbe that goes there to every drop of their blood, every cell of their body, and help heal them from the inside out, that to remove any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual dis-ease within them. And that white light of healing comes out through the soles of their feet into Kika Tamich, out through their fingertips and the top of their head into the air, for the air and the earth heals. I ask you to heal our people at this time. We offer special Chwachachin and prayers for our people that are on the streets as we go into the winter season. I ask that you look after them in a good way. You help them find food, shelter, warmth, but above all, safety. You help them find their way back to their people in whatever way many of our people are lost on the streets. I ask you to look after them at this time. We say this, Chochaitis Rankasaltan, Talcookbe, all my relatives. Travels, everyone.
Thanks, Gus. Yeah, thanks, Gus. That's a wrap.
Okay.
Not too bad for time, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
Even diversions from
Yep.
time to time.
Yep, yep.
So are you driving back now?
Yep.
How long does it take you to get home?
2.
Yeah.
About 2.5 hours comfortably. It's actually quicker getting here from home.